Welcome to our podcast. You're listening to Okay by Ixon at www.ixonmusic.com. Tonight's episode, Should You Think Twice About Dating a Felon? With special guest, spiritual whistleblower. Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine? Making sense of the senseless. 3 professional women attempting to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I am Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California. Therefore, everything that and anything that we discuss on this podcast is purely for psychoeducational or entertainment purposes only. And God, I'm doing that so fast because if I stop, I'm going to lose my train of thought. So lately, if you go back a few podcasts, I'm getting faster and faster and faster in the intros. And pretty soon it's like a speed record. I'm gonna see if I could break my personal best. It's good. So for tonight's episode in particular, last night I was like, oh my God, I don't have this wine, but thank goodness I did. I am drinking 19 Crimes with Snoop Dogg. I am so glad I had this because I was hoping I had this. It is a Cali Red. And there's so many people that say, no one in California says Cali. Yes, we do. That's a big, people saying people don't say Cali. And my glass, it says, I whine because I'm not at Disneyland. And this also, because I do have a Disneyland pass. I always go to Disneyland, but when I worked in the prison, we would go to Disneyland and we'd be like, could you imagine working here? It's so different because we're yelling at inmates, we're cussing all the time. And then we go to Disneyland, it's like, oh, darn, we have to totally change our attitude. So it was the opposite of Disneyland. So that is me.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Heather, licensed professional counselor, domestic violence survivor, criminal justice mental health clinician, offender treatment provider and evaluator, and drinker of wine. I have Talon Pinot Grigio. Yay for Colorado, represent.
Yeah.
And my cup today is in honor of all the criminals that have fucked us over. Eat a bag of dicks.
Man,
I should have brought my cup tonight. Damn it.
I so badly want to say something that's so inappropriate, but it is very apropos to eat a bag of dicks.
Eat a bag of dicks. It is, right? You know. Okay. You're exactly. Ashley.
I'm Ashley Page, founder of Loving Single and the Hot Mess Society, a support community for domestic violence survivors and narcissistic abuse survivors, single mom and domestic violence survivor myself. And tonight I have no wine because this is a topic for me that requires vodka. So tonight, I have my honey vodka that I got with Heather.
You got the real vodka today.
And then I made some homemade strawberry. So yeah.
She pulled out the vodka tonight. Good, listen.
She ain't fucking around.
This is a heavy conversation. Like this is a conversation.
I do have to say before we introduce our guest again, our return guest, yay, that I did forget to say because it was Ashley's birthday Sunday. It was my birthday yesterday. And so in that honor, I am wearing this shirt that says, wine gets better with age. I get better with wine.
I love it.
And I almost forgot to say that. So
nice.
Now, back by popular demand, and because we love having her, our guest.
Sorry.
I love this. Is going to be
sorry.
So I look pretty good to you guys right now, huh?
I'm sorry. You need to change. I need a shirt that says fucking tequila, okay? Because that's my fucking drink. I get better with tequila, goddammit. Let's go.
Love tequila.
I get better with any alcohol.
that's funny. Oh my goodness. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's you. We're on you.
Oh, okay. Hey, girl. Hey, everybody. Spiritual whistleblower here. I'm back again. What am I? Geez, I'm a crazy woman that I whistleblow all these narc demons out here. Social media influencer. I am a domestic violence survivor and advocate. And I'm a certified life coach and certified victim advocate. And I'm in school pursuing my psychology degree. And that's going to take forever, but I don't give two shits. I just want to get out here and help women and children. And thank you guys for having me back. And this is my Ratchet Subway cup. And it's a mystery drink in here. Y'all don't need to know, but it's getting the job done. And I'm in Cali and I'm ready to turn up. Let's talk, ladies.
Okay. So tonight we're talking about, should you date a felon or ex-felon or ex-con or whatever you want to call it? Or should you like fucking run the other way?
The answer seems so obvious, doesn't it?
And a few podcasts back, Ashley was saying about how women sexualize Jeffrey Dahmer and all of that. So no, for some people the answer is not obvious.
No, it's the whole concept of glorifying the bad boy and all of that entails. Like, I know as a young teenage girl, young woman, I loved bad boys. I thought it was sexy, it was cool, turned me on. And I think there's a large population of women that feel the same way.
For sure, I did. And I grew up in that same kind of time period and culture. And there were lots of like movies too, where there's like the distressed bad boy and the good girl that ends up like turning him around, and then they live happily ever after. And they like, so it was kind of glorified too in the media, like even like the musical Grease, right? Like he's like, Danny's like a total bad boy, right? And then he,
turn her into a bad girl, considering what they had her wearing at the end. People say, if you really think about it, he flipped her and was a bad influence on her rather than him being being a good influence on him.
Yeah.
It's totally force fed down our throats by society, even when we're little girls. So it's like the bad boy gets all the girls, especially in high school, the jocks, the athletes, and they later turn out to be assholes once they graduate. So that it's force fed down our throats as young girls. We're groomed to believe the bad boy is the way, but it's the toxic way, and you're going to pay for it in the long run. So
and we have
oh yeah, big time.
And it's not even whether you should date them, to be honest, when they get out, because there are so many women that want to date the ones that are inside. They want to hook up with inmates that are inside. And I working in 13 years in the prison, I cannot tell you, I'm going to tell you a really quick story that when we share an office with someone, we'd call it a cellie, because when the inmates have double cell, they have a cellie. So when we had to double or triple up in our offices, it was our cellie. So I shared an office with 3 women, and one of the ladies was on a dating app. Well, and I'll tell you how to recognize if an inmate is on a dating app, by the way.
Ooh, please
they
do.
love, at least in California, they love Plenty of Fish. So if you are on Plenty of Fish, so are they. And one time she went out to see an inmate. She came back, she slams her stuff on her desk, and she's like, I don't know what I'm more upset about. We're like, what happened? She goes, my inmate has a girlfriend off of Plenty of Fish. So I don't know if I'm upset that why the hell is he even on Plenty of Fish, or how the hell he got a girlfriend and I can't meet anybody.
Oh my God. I can't.
But I think because Plenty of Fish is free, a lot of them are free, but they're not truly free. And Plenty of Fish, I think, is free, and you could pay for extra stuff. There's a lot of them on Plenty of Fish. Yeah. So
Well, Doc, real quickly, Doc, because I used to work for the Attorney General's office, this New York State Attorney General's office for 5 years. And I worked in the Internet Bureau, and we catch all the internet scams. And the majority of the complaints that came in were from women getting scammed on Plenty of Fish. So,
Really?
yes.
Sounds about right.
And it's probably because it's free and it's free for everybody, unless you're like my ex. My ex paid for the top user level. Such a fucking
be on top.
Gotta, because that way everyone will see me first. Big head, they will see you. So, okay, if you look at a guy's dating profile, first off, in California, every state is different, but in California, our inmates wear chambray blue, which is like a light colored denim. So they wear chambray blue. Some of their shirts are crew neck, but a lot of them are button up and they'll have a white t-shirt underneath. During visiting, they are allowed to get photos taken. So they will get Polaroids and they can take them back to their cell. So first off, if you see a picture of he's shirtless, because somehow they took a picture on the phone, or he is from here up in all of his pictures, and you can maybe see a blue collar with the white, be aware of that. And I mean, I know that there's guys that wear stuff like that, but be aware of that because they will use their pictures, their Polaroid pictures from visiting as their profile pictures. And then they'll have shirtless pics because, you know, the phones that they sneak in. Also, if they tell you, and they do this, that they live in a gated community. They do. They really do.
God.
Be aware. Also, if they say something like they are going to, they're in school or out of the country or whatever, and they will be back in 3 to 5. No, they're not. That's not that far up, but they'll give you a, hey, I'm not available. We can sit and talk until June. Theoretically, their parole date. So just beware. There was I can't remember, she was free staff, meaning she was not custody staff. She was free staff. There was one of the staff members was on Plenty of Fish and matched with an inmate. And so she immediately reported it to our internal investigative services unit. And they're like, oh, okay, keep it going. So he told her, you know, I can only talk between these hours. That's another thing. Limited time to talk. It's when the officers aren't going to find them. If they have to, you know, sometimes I may need to hang up really quick because it's like there's an emergency and I have to go. Yeah, there's an emergency because I had one inmate who he was talking on the phone and they walked up and he threw the phone across the cell. He's like, I didn't know what to do. I just threw the phone. Like, so like they didn't see it. He's like, I don't know what I was thinking. And he did get in trouble, but he's like, I just threw it. So if they say they have to get off the phone really quickly, or don't call me, I'll call you.
Oh, yes.
Because if you're walking around in the building and you hear a phone ring, even staff's not allowed to have phones. And one time there was 13 of us in a room and a phone went off and we were all like, where's the phone? In a cell block, you don't want to have the phone going off. So they'll call you. Yeah.
Quick question, Doc, because this is puzzling and driving me crazy. How the fuck do the inmates get the cell phones in there? Number one, how are they on the dating apps? There's, you know, if you follow the TikTok, there's felons on TikTok. It's called Felon TikTok hashtag. They're recording. I saw this guy. He has a cooking show from his fucking cell.
I saw that too.
Teaching. How are they able to get cell phones and get on dating apps? How is that possible in there?
So this is like, okay, so this lady, she let everybody know and they said, keep it going. So he told her a bunch of stuff. and they looked him up. They found out his cell. So right after she would talk to him, within like 24 hours, they would come and toss his cell. So she wouldn't hear from him for a while. And then he'd get another phone. He'd call her. She'd let them know. Within 24 hours, they'd toss his cell. The guy never caught on. He kept telling him, oh, I had an emergency. Oh, and she's like, fucker's cell's being tossed and they're taking his phone. They come in mainly through staff.
Really?
Yes, mainly through staff.
Wow.
It's really, and when people say, and even staff said this, but I hear this a lot, but you know, they want to call their families. Motherfuckers get a phone. They get phone calls, and now there's a certain amount of phone calls that they get for free. So don't give me this just because it's being monitored. They don't need a phone to call mommy and daddy, and 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, they're not calling mommy and daddy.
Right.
We've had people that were hit, they had hits put on them from inside the cell. They've had drug deals from inside the cell. So it's not, oh, the poor inmates just want to call mommy and daddy. No, the fuck it's not. So I think the number one of getting them in is staff. Also, they have their significant others will swap drugs and phones. They'll hide them in their prison wallet, which we know what that is. I saw an x-ray. I'm like, how the hell did someone get in
They
their
get an enormous amount of things up their butts.
Yeah.
Like,
What?
it's
Male
ridiculous.
prison wallet.
Yes.
Their
Yes.
prison wallets get full of stuff.
Yep.
Yes. And they, like, with my ex, God, I should probably be careful what I say because he's out there somewhere. But with my ex, that was something that I knew of and I overheard him talking about, was how they would fly kites from inside the cells, that they would have and operate and start entire businesses
Yeah.
inside prison and outside of prison, and their ability to function in everyday society and life while still behind bars is
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I there was, in our enhanced outpatient program, drugs weren't as big of an issue and as they were in the rest of the prison, because these guys were mentally ill. So there wasn't as big of a drug or contraband issue. But one time there was a little mini riot of 9 guys on one, and they were fighting over a cell phone because apparently it was a gang cell phone. The Bay Area gang brought it in and the other people wanted it and they were fighting over it, and it got taken away. But then another phone came in another building and they were fighting over it. And I was telling the guys, I said, I don't care how many times it's wrapped up. That phone was in someone's ass. And they're like, yeah, but it's wrapped up. I don't care. If
They
it's
don't
wrapped
care
up.
either.
They don't
They
care.
don't care.
Oh my God.
Fair.
I can't. I can't.
And so sadly, sometimes when it's staff that brings it in, they also turn a blind eye because you can make a lot of money on a cell phone. One cell phone with limit. What they do is they'll give you a cell phone that's got, like, I'm making up a time because I don't know, an hour on it, and it's $1,000. Now you want more time? That's $500 for another half an hour. Or so the phone itself doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. It's the time that you're buying on it that's expensive. And if I give you a phone and you don't pay me and that phone gets confiscated, motherfucker, you still owe me that money.
Wow.
You may not have the phone anymore, but you owe me that money. So like this one guy who kept getting his cell tossed because he kept talking to this girl and couldn't put 2 and 2 together, that every time you talk to her, officers mysteriously come. So he went through several $1,000s worth of phones.
Wow.
And guess
Wow.
who's putting money on their books?
The women.
The women are, of course, they're mind fucking them.
Totally. I remember when I was still very much in my trauma bond with my daughter's father, the amount of money that man got out of me to put on his books. And it was always like, I just want noodles. or
Uh-huh.
for
I'm
bursts.
out of coffee.
Or yeah, and like I just need more money to call you. And
No,
Yeah.
no.
And I hope, but I'm not gonna, that you were the only one, because they are notorious.
Multiple women.
Oh,
Multiple.
we were not the only ones they were
No, for
calling.
sure.
They said we were, but they were calling everybody and getting
Yeah.
money from everybody. that would
Everywhere.
get to them.
My dad was, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. My dad was in prison with Suge Knight. And so we met Suge Knight, and he had a wife and a girlfriend. And they never were to cross paths. The wife came on a Saturday, the girlfriend came on a Sunday. And they never alternated. They had to have known about each other.
Oh, totally.
But- and I
Totally.
bet you those weren't the only two, but those were the only two that can come to visiting hours. Because the rest were probably just, baby, I'll see you when you get out. or
They got a
something like that.
rotation going of women, in and out, in and out.
Oh my God. I went to visit my ex in jail many, many years ago when we were first dating. And he was in jail, and I was actually there to visit another guy that I had started dating because he was in jail too. And then the woman that my ex was cheating on me with ended up being there at the same time as me. And this was like back in the day when this jail, like when you would have visiting hours, you had to go down this hall and they had all the like metal seats and they had the windows and glass and the little phones, right? Like, and we ended up sitting literally right across from each other with my ex and the new guy I was dating facing each other. Look, I'm on the phone.
oh my
I
god.
was like, oh my God.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. The girl he was cheating on me with showed up at the same time and she saw me.
Yeah.
They're only allowed to have one visitor at once. I'm like, bitch, I'm not here to see him. I'm here to see the other
I'm
idiot.
here to see
because
my
this is
other
right
new
here.
guy now. 'Cause
Wow.
I didn't date just one. We had to go after another one.
Oh,
Yeah,
so like I want to know though, Chanel, because you like I want to know like what kind of like what's your history, what's your experience, being a domestic violence survivor, because I've dated felons, criminals, jail, prison, Comcore, the works.
I was married. My ex-husband's not an ex-convict, but he was violent, and I got out of that marriage very quickly, thank God. But my last relationship, which was 4 years ago, was with an ex-con who served 20 years. He's from Columbia, South Carolina. I will not reveal his name, but people know who he is. And he beat up 2 cops. The reason he ended up in prison is because at that time he was in college. He committed, some crimes. He was dealing drugs. He kidnapped at that time his girlfriend and her roommate, stole their car to transport drugs with the girls in the back of the car. He kidnapped them to transport drugs to another state, dropped the drugs off, brought the girls back. One of the girls, the roommate, jumped out the car to escape. And he also pulled a knife. I heard he hijacked a taxi driver or something with a knife. All this was happening at the same time. The cops in Charlotte, North Carolina, caught up to him. He led them on a high-speed car chase, which ended badly in a very severe car crash.
Wow.
He was ejected from the car in a fiery crash, and he survived.
Wow.
This was in Charlotte, North Carolina 20 years ago. And if people Google and do their research, they can find out who he is and what his name is. They got him, transported him to the trauma center. Once he healed, he was shipped to federal prison. And they wanted to give him 40 years. Because I mean, from kidnapping to pulling a gun, he had the girlfriend at gunpoint, kidnapped her and the roommate, transporting drugs. So they got him on drugs, assaulting police. He should have been in there much longer than 20 years, my opinion. But they got it down to 20 years. And this is somebody I went to high school with. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Him and my baby brother were on the same varsity high school basketball team. My mother used to drive them to practice. I don't do ex-convicts, but when he got out of prison, and I'm successful, I'm in New York doing my thing, being myself, single, successful, and he found me. He looked me up and he was like, look, I turned my life around. I'm out now. You were the girl I should have chosen. My baby mother, his 2 baby mothers. You know, one of his baby mothers are ended up on Ayanla's Fix My Life, and she's a sociopath. She's a piece of trash mother. Her kids hate her, and they confronted her on Ayanla's show.
Wow.
That says a lot about him and how he chooses women.
So, but I have to ask you real quick is
Sure.
what in all of that made you say, I'm gonna go out with him?
Because the childhood friendship, the fact that he knew the familiarity, because I don't do ex-cons. It was the childhood connection we had. We had several classes together in high school. I remember in algebra, we sat right next to each other and helped each other cheat on, you know, certain tests and stuff. So it was that soft-hearted side of me that said, hey, this is a childhood friend. He would never betray me. You know, give him another chance. He's a good person. Even though I would never do it, you know, give another guy an opportunity. I would never date an ex-con, but it was something about him and the connection with the childhood that made me be more forgiving and more trusting. And baby, that was the biggest fucking mistake. That he got me to move down out of New York to South Carolina. And once I got down there, he was living off his mom. Yes, I know I was stupid. I was fucking stupid. I got down there. His mother could not. She has a raggedy house, and his mother is still married to his daddy. His daddy moved out, and his daddy's living with his girlfriend. This, you know, it's the family is toxic as fuck. I get down there. He's out of prison. His mother can't even afford to buy him a mattress, so he's sleeping on the couch in his mother's house. I said, "What the fuck is going on?" I buy a mattress. The house is fucking hot. I buy a air condition. I fix the shower stall. Everything was fucked up with this family. So I'm learning like, whoa, like this is not even me. I don't even function like this. I don't know what your family does, but the more that I got sucked into it, the more that I started learning that he had a whole system. His family members and the women were helping him to break me down to become this weak, insecure woman. And that's not me, honey. And he started putting his hands on me. He beat me, strangled me. And I still covered for him because I'm like, he just got out of prison. If I go rat on him, he's going back in there easily. If I go to parole and tell them, they're going to put him back in. So he has grandchildren. He has children. I haven't seen him in 20 years. And that me being a good person that I am was trying to protect him so that he could stay, you know, with his kids, even though he should go back. He's a bad person. So that's my story. What made me click, you know, when listening to Doc and her stories is, if you served 20 years, motherfucker, for DV and violence, you beat up 2 cops, you did this to your girlfriend, you were a violent motherfucker, you did 20 years. And Doc, I got to ask you another question about what the fuck those motherfuckers do while they're in there, because he came out, he didn't have a college degree, he didn't get no trade certification. I said, what the fuck were you doing for 20 years, motherfucker? Because you came out dumb and, you know, you didn't accomplish nothing while you was in there, but you want to come out and you want me to do all your hard labor and work for you to get you back on your feet. And I'm not doing that shit, fucker. I'm not doing it. So he had this expectation, oh, we're going to build together. No, you want to use me to build your trifling ass up so that you can go chase the girl that you really want to be with. And I was not having it. I got out immediately. I got out, took me 3 months, but I was out of there and I never looked back. So that's my DV story. If he did not learn from the 20 years that put him in there, he came out after 3 months after being released, he was being violent towards a woman. He slapped his neighbor. I saw him pull a knife on his mother. All those violent tendencies did not go away. I actually think prison amplified that behavior. He's totally a sociopath, psychopath. I said, he didn't learn nothing but how to be more manipulative and more violent in prison. So that's my story.
Them better
Go ahead.
Criminals. Prison makes them better criminals because they learn what not to do this time to get them out. In the state of California, though, this is one thing that is not, I can't speak for all states, but the stuff that I've heard from other states are not like California. California in 2002, California was put under a federal mandate because their medical, mental, and dental, there were lawsuits from inmates left and right for poor mental health, poor medical,
Yes.
poor dental. So we got put under receivership, federal receivership, and I think it was 2002. Around the same time, Arnold Schwarzenegger made us California Department of Corrections, and now we are California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The only thing that changed was adding that R. Just putting the word there does not make us
Rehabilitation.
rehabilitated, but it
Yeah.
looks good because we're also the Department of Rehabilitation. However, they are supposed to go to school. If they do not have a high school diploma, they're supposed to earn a GED in prison. They're supposed to. If they already have their GED, they're allowed to go to college. There are college, and a lot of the guys did. But they're also, if they're not in school, they're supposed to be doing a trade, plumbing, masonry, any of that. Unfortunately, there were guys that just didn't want to do anything.
Yep.
And so, because I would sit in the committees, and what a committee is when a guy either comes to the prison from a different prison, so this is his first time on our yard, or he comes from another yard into a new yard. They do a committee where they put him, they evaluate him, put him in all the placements that he's supposed to be in, and how many points they have and stuff like that. And they'll get put in. The ones that really, really want to go to school, they'll say there's no room, because the ones that don't want to be there aren't going, but they're taking space. So
No
until
way.
another 6 months comes around or whatever, we can't remove them. Some of the guys really wanted to go into painting, but they were told to go to plumbing. So they won't go at all, instead of trying to work their way to the other one. Also, those trades are what's called behind the wall. And there's the yard, and then there's what's called work change. And they go through that, and then they're in a whole other area where all the trades are. And because there's only a chain link fence, and then there's a perimeter and a electrified fence and all that, but if they have any kind of escape history, and it doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago or 2 years ago, they're not allowed to go back there. So even if a guy wants to do all that stuff, he will never be able to go back behind the wall, which then it's like, okay, so great, you're not letting them go. And an escape is like a walk off from fire camp or anything like that. But it's like, oh, great. So these guys really want to do this. And I understand that you don't want them out where they can get out easier, but you still can't get out from there. But it's all the tools and things like that. So some guys that really, really, really want these jobs can't get them. And guys that really, really want school can't get it. And then there's the guys that don't give a fuck. And I think in prison, you should have to. And it is mandated, but there's also not really any penalties if they don't. So how can you have a mandate, but there's nothing that you can really do to enforce it? And guys that were able to get into the trades, like there were guys that went all the way through plumbing and took all their licensing so that when they get out of prison, they can have an actual career as a plumber.
Yeah.
Or as an electrician. Like the guys that worked in my backyard, I had a deck put in and lighting and stuff, and the guy was in prison from age of like 17 to 22, and now he was 32, and he seemed extremely responsible. And we were talking about, wow, you have your own business doing electrician, you have all the means to stay out. And then he started doing shit, and then we never heard from him for a long time. And it's like, I think even after 10 years, I think he got back in, because it's really sadly easy to get back into prison.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a question, because I know there's a lot of like women who like are thinking like, well, should I give this person a chance? Like, did they turn a new leaf? Like, did they have a come to Jesus moment? What are the pros and cons? Because like the truth is, and like, you know, like the truth is I could know like and gather all this information about like inside of prison and all that stuff. But like there was something so specifically alluring about my ex and the other men that I dated before him. And I really want to kind of like, if that's okay, if we talk about that specifically on like, why are we attracted to felons or convicts or bad boys? What are the like, you know, because we've seen people have a come to Jesus moment, and listen, Jesus can fix you, but it's not my job to save you or home you or provide for you. So like, I want to like, for the ladies that are listening, like, let's break that down a little bit, that aspect of things. If that's,
I want to Okay, so I want to answer for me. I totally know why I attracted this individual, and it took a lot of therapy, self-awareness, reflection, introspection, being raised by two abusive parents. Now, my daddy didn't hit me, and I didn't realize my daddy was a covert and manipulative because I was his little girl, and he weaponized and triangulated me against my mother growing up. My mother was the violent sociopath. My mother scarred my face in high school to make me look ugly and destroy my self-esteem. My mother called me fat bitch and ugly when I was in high school. She destroyed and annihilated my self-esteem. So that I attracted men with the same personality types as my mother. And I could not make the distinct connection or the pattern. But that's what these men are. My mother, just they're it's my mother's personality in a male body. That's it. And
Plus,
and
if
that's
you can get these guys to love you,
yes.
then you can get your mom to love you. Then
yes.
it's kind
yes.
of if this guy I can fix him and he's normal, then I can do the same for
I can get mom's validation. I can get her love. And I wasn't realizing that, hey, you're seeking the same thing in different people that you seek from your mom. And it took a lot of work for me in therapy to realize that. And now, at the point, my last relationship was 4 years ago. I've been celibate. I don't even want to look at a man. I want to touch a man. And I got men lined up. I could date. I'm a good looking girl and I'm smart and all that. I can get a man. That's not the issue. I don't want to be in another situation that destroys my life, my finances, my spirituality, the core of who I am. And it's very important for me to work on myself and my mom and dad issues so that I don't repeat this pattern. So for me, I think with women, women that don't have a father, they grew up in a single mother home and the mom was a narcissist, and they're going to attract men with their mother's personality. And then they got the absent daddy there. So they're looking for a father figure too in these men. And these men are going to take total advantage. These men already know, they study us and they know what the fuck we're lacking. And if they've been in prison all that long, they know they've been practicing over the phone, manipulating, mind fucking women for so long. It's just too easy for them. So
that's what it is. It's
yes.
It's because I don't have a history of being abused by my parents or anything like that. And I worked so long with criminals, and it's like, I know what they are. I know what they do. So how the fuck did I end up with this guy for 3 years? And for me, so it's not like a general, like being just too naive either. Right. Like,
right.
Sometimes these guys are so good at just being manipulative pieces of shit that they can.
That's what they do in prison. It's all about manipulating and stuff too. Yeah.
That's what they do. So like, here's what I think listeners really want to know is like, what the fuck is the risk? Like, if I don't have if it's not me attracting them, if it's not me, like, and it's them, like, what is like what do I need to be looking for? What do I need to be aware of? And I think really it's like, what is the risk for me to be like a domestic violence survivor as a result of making the choice to date a felon? Because there are felons out there, like we've said, that have turned their lives around, that are good people, that are in relationships, and they're not fucking hurting people. So what's the difference between them and the ones that are fucking hurting people and manipulating people? And like, for me, I think there's like three fucking types of abusers out there. They're motivated by three things. One is entitlement. Those are the abusers that like go after you because they think that hurting you is a privilege. They think that if they don't get their way, that they are entitled to hurt you and punish you.
Yes.
And those are like the entitlement kind. There's the ones who's like mind fucking you and manipulating you for years and years and years before it escalates into something physical. Yep. Like, these are the narcissist guys. And then there are the abusers that are like survival based abusers. And they're like, I just need that. They abuse out of impulse, out of desperation, and they have zero anger management, zero emotional control. And they're just like desperately trying, if they perceive that you've betrayed them in some way, then they don't respond with anger, they respond with rage. They don't respond with fear, they respond with terror. It's like, it's so fucking
extreme. And also that's big because that's big in prison too.
Those are the guys that are, if it's sounding familiar, these are the guys that are like the borderline and the antisocial
Yeah.
personality.
Yes.
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 But
Heather,
also-
yes.
That's
Before you go
that's
to
who are in prison.
Before you get to the next one though, is because those are the guys also in prison. If someone bumps you in line, that's not cool. You respond with fighting.
They're ready to fight on the
So-
spot, on the
Well,
site.
and
not
it's not
cutting
even
out-
just prison though. Like I saw my ex beat the hell out of people for looking at them, looking at him.
Yes.
Or
It's just
yeah,
a perceived.
it is
Yeah.
not like they get to prison because they act that way in society. Like
And it's reinforced in prison and it is just jammed in them in prison. I
So-
did parole groups where I tell guys, you're gonna be at McDonald's and someone's gonna bump you. You can't turn around and
Yep.
punch them in the face.
Yep.
So yeah.
So then there's like then the third type in my mind are like the sadistic guys that just get like sick pleasure out of
They
fucking hurting people.
enjoy hurting people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those are your psychopaths. Those are really fucking dangerous. If you ever been in a relationship with them, you like those are the guys that like when you see them, the victims of those people, they're the ones in psych wards.
Yes.
The victims are. Because sometimes they'll take years and years before they even start abusing a woman, and then they like so those are like my three types of abusers, right? So like if they sound like antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, stay with me. The percentage of the population with cluster B personality disorders out here in the world is small, like 10% of the population altogether with cluster Bs, and only like 3 to 4% of those have antisocial personality disorder. If you transfer that to prison, the numbers multiply by so much. You're looking at antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder making up something like 85% of maximum security prisons, and then psychopaths cutting into like 20% of that. So the risk of you being abused by a fucking monster drastically increases if they have a criminal fucking history. And that's just it. That's what people need to be aware of. Like, yes, people can be reformed. Yes, people can change. But if you look at the risk, you're not going to meet these people out in the world as frequently as you are if you're letting them come at you out of prison. That's really what it is.
It's also going to depend, in my opinion, on what they were in for. Because like I was in 2018 when I left my ex, I was on a dating site, and there was a guy who was really attractive. And we started talking, and I'm like, this guy's really attractive. I'd like to meet him. And as we talked more and more and more, he told me, oh, by the way, I should probably disclose I got out of prison not that long ago. And, I was like, and I'm still working in prison. And I'm just like, fuck me. And I go, well, in my head, I'm like, well, let's see how long he was in and what he was in for. Because level 1 is the minimum security. If you were in for a drug charge, you know, if you were in for forgery, if you were, you know, smaller, non-violent crimes. And then I said, okay, what were you in for? And he's like, I served 25 years for murder. And I was like,
oh,
25 years for murder, and he's on a dating app.
And he was really attractive. And I'm just like, I really wish you luck. You seem like a very nice person. But I'm sorry, I work in prison, and that's just like, I tried to politely say, oh, hell no. Because when I'm like, oh, well, what were you in for? I'm thinking, please be something minor. Please be something minor. And like, oh, no, not minor.
Well, and on that note, Jody, I want to say this is that if a man has been in jail or prison, incarcerated in any type of way for domestic violence, you're not going to change that man.
Absolutely.
The hardest threshold for a man to cross is the very first time he hits a woman. After that, it is of no consequence.
Right.
There is no empathy. There is no remorse. You earned it. So if you're talking to a man who has DV charges or they have criminal history with that, I can promise you that you're staring into the past that will be your future with this person.
And I can
hard because they'll lie to you, and they'll twist it. You know, our abusers love to blame the victim all the time. They'll be like, she set me up. I didn't do
Right.
anything. And then they'll spin a story, a narrative that's so convincing, because that's what my ex did. He had a history of domestic violence before me, and I knew about it, but his version of what happened was drastically different
Right.
than what actually fucking happened. And so it kind of twisted, and the woman he is with now is also thinking that I'm the crazy bitch, you know, like, and it just, they keep going like that, and they'll try to convince the next target, the next victim, that their victims are the ones to blame. So don't fall for that shit either. If they were found guilty of it, they fucking did it.
And even if it's like, but I just hit her in self-defense, then he's gonna say he hit you in self-defense too. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They do. Yep.
And it's like, and like when, in my instance, I went to high school, childhood friends with my ex before he got incarcerated, and I didn't find out till later, he was beating his baby mothers and you know, beating on women. I even heard a story of rape in high school. He was super handsome, good looking guy, beautiful smile, beautiful teeth. All the girls wanted him, white and black. He was the super jock of the high school. And he got away with so much. I'm learning so much about him now that's coming out, but he was beating on women and raping and doing stuff to women prior to his incarceration. So
Yeah,
he served. Go
that's
ahead,
the
I'm
thing
sorry.
too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's the thing too, is by the time they get to prison, it's not the first time. And if that's the first time that brought them to prison, then it was really bad. But odds are there was a bunch of times before that.
Yeah. So by him serving the 20 and in, you know, 3 months out of prison, he's already beating me. He's attacking his mother. I said, oh no, this is not going to work. I didn't sign up for this. I got out because I said, so, and, you know, he did. This is the thing, Doc. He said to me while he was in prison, he said, they said that I have anger issues. And then he said, you know, I'm gonna work on that. And then we moved on from that. And I said, no. Who is they? And who told you had anger issues? Does that mean, is that a mental evaluation? You know, what does that mean? Because the anger that you're displaying is towards, I've seen him, you attacked your neighbor. You just got out of prison. You're not even worried about going back because you're physically assaulting everybody now that you're out. Somebody evaluated you in prison, sir.
Yeah.
Somebody did. And you're
so
trying to cover up
likely.
or pretend that it's not there. But you have these, listen, I saw what it was. It took me 3 months. I went back home. I said, no, I'm not going to put up with this shit.
I'm so glad you did, because he probably would have killed you. Like, those
I
guys
agree.
are the most likely to kill you.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
And
Those are the ones.
in prison, okay, this is how it works in the state of California.
Yes.
In jail, you're gonna have people that have returned to prison, people that are waiting for their sentences, people that haven't been convicted yet. So jail's kind of a mishmash of convicted, non-convicted. You worked in jails, Heather. I interviewed to work in a jail and went, oh, hell no, I can deal with prison.
It is a different kind of world in jail than it is in prison. The guys in county jail want to be in prison. They don't want to be in county jail.
And prison is their at least
clusterfuck in there.
So they try to make it more their home. Where in county jail, it's yeah, especially in LA County was But
it's the new mental health institution. The county jail is.
Wow.
It's really sad what happens in most places, and to people that shouldn't be there and people that should, and it's just, you mix them up, it's real bad.
Well, and like I do want to say this too, because it's not just prison. So like my ex was incarcerated in community corrections for 18 months for like domestic violence, but multiple violations on the restraining order.
Is that like jail?
No, it's like a halfway house.
It's
like summer camp. Like, but the thing is like, even with that, like this man, my ex, you know, like he was in Mexican prison. He has, like, and listen, this man is white and he survived Mexican prison, and he lived And he lived down there for 3 years, and like, God knows what kind of atrocious crimes he committed in Mexico. And then he escaped back. And so like when he came back from Mexico
Wait, did you just say he escaped back?
Yeah, he left Mexico. So he was wanted in Colorado and Arizona for God knows what. They wouldn't tell me because I wasn't married to him. He was wanted in Colorado and Arizona for multiple warrants and charges. He escaped to Mexico. And while he was in Mexico, he got into a hell of a bunch of trouble, got locked up in Mexican prison, and then left Mexico, escaped Mexico, and came back to the States. Then that's when he broke into my house and then got arrested here and was incarcerated in community corrections. So I will tell you this, and I can't say specifically because God knows where he's at and if he's like stalking me and watching me, and I'm just not willing to risk my life for that. But like, I know of specific crimes he has committed, and just because he's never been into an American prison does not mean that the crimes he's committed does not, like, he deserves to be in prison for life, for several life sentences. And so like, just because hasn't been in prison and they're like a convicted felon, like that doesn't mean that they're not dangerous. This man almost killed me on multiple occasions. He hired a hitman to kill me. He tried kidnapping my daughter. He's terrorized me for years. He's always come after me. Like, I'm such
How did he only get community correction?
So our system in Colorado especially really likes to try to go towards like the restorative justice, rehabilitative place with people. Like my ex only did 14 months and shit, he definitely should have done more than that, and just got an 18-month probation sentence on his last felony. So, or they dropped the felony, so he only got 18 months probation. And this is someone who's never been successful on probation in his life, but they're going to give him a chance at probation and another chance and another chance, and they just continue failing. So there's a lot of high risk offenders that are out on the street just in treatment programs that they're trying to rehabilitate. So they give them a lot of fucking chances. And I, as someone who works with these people, like there are some that need these chances that are amenable to treatment, right? But there are so many that aren't. So many that are not amenable to treatment, that are manipulating the system to whatever they can so that they don't have to go to jail or prison, and are not really, they're not really walking the walk, And so there's a lot of high risk people that probably should have been in prison and aren't.
I want to quickly ask Doc this question, if she has any knowledge or heard any stories, because this is my experience too, and I've heard from other women that have been victims of this. But if you're dealing with an ex-convict and he served a lot of time and you didn't know he was violent, and you find out afterwards, and he has a probation officer and he has a woman probation officer, a lot of them flirt and fuck their probation officers.
I can't even begin to tell you. My ex fucked his case manager.
The probation officer is enabling him to be abusive towards his partner. So I don't know, Doc, if you've heard any stories about this. That's another issue, that probation officers are enabling these motherfuckers to be toxic and violent and continue their bullshit once they get out.
I have a bunch of stories like that.
Go ahead.
I'll hand it to you in a minute, Heather, but there was a guy, I used to run a parole group for guys that were 6 months to the house, meaning they had 6 months left on their sentence. Because I would say, and they never had this. I was on the yard and I'm like, you guys, are you doing anything for their mental health when they get out? So I started a group because they're going to get resources from their custody counselor, which is like, whether they're on parole or probation, where they have to call in, they'll give them a motel voucher, sometimes that kind of stuff. I told them, I said, look, you guys, it's not just having resources. This has to change. And if this hasn't changed, and I had one guy, because we were talking about what you can and cannot do on parole. And he's like, man, I had a parole agent one time. She was the coolest. I could go out of state and then just call and check in. I would go there high on marijuana. And the other inmates, it wasn't just me that said that. The other inmates looked at him and they said, you know, she didn't do you any favors, because if she did, you wouldn't be here today. You'd still be out on the street. So all she did was allow you to continue the behavior that ended up getting you back into here.
Yes.
Other inmates said that to him. And it was like, yes, at least they noticed that. So yeah, I mean, you want to talk after you talk about this, though, there's unfortunately officers and clinicians and nurses and rec therapists that have hooked up with inmates and lost their job and stayed with the inmate who is still in prison.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
There was a story today that I can't remember exactly who or where it was. I think it was out of California, of a deputy who bailed out a female inmate and then had an affair with her and was married. The deputy was, and it just went boom, erupted and went public on Twitter today. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
I know of male officers that went to work in female institutions and fucked up their career.
Yep.
Because of that.
Remember, like when I worked in the jail, there were 3 terminations in 1 month for people fucking inmates. So there was like a nursing staff, kitchen staff, and a deputy, and all 3 of them had got fired in a month.
Yes.
I got one more. Wait. I got one more thing, Doc. I saw this on TikTok because this prison stuff is mind blowing. I saw a women's correction facility. This was on TikTok, and there was a male guard, and the girl faked being sick. And they sent the male guard to escort her to the infirmary, and she pulled him to the side in the hallway and said, I was faking. I just want to fuck you. See, this is the stuff that I want to hear about prison. I want to hear these stories because it's you know,
That's a whole other podcast episode.
I can
by
give
the
you
way, too, Doc, I didn't tell you, one of my ex-boyfriends, he's deceased now. He died in his sleep. He was a correctional officer for Rikers Island here in New York.
I've heard bad stories. I have some friends that work there, and that's a
he
bad
did
thing.
13 years, but he was a violent correctional officer. He was beating and abusing the inmates, and he got fired.
Yeah.
But he was suffering. He had heart issues from the stress, and he died at 38 years old. That's young. He died in his sleep of heart failure. But the stories, the correctional officers who are also narcissistic and sociopathic, the woman correctional officers who sleep with the male correctional officers and get pregnant. See, that I want to hear the good stuff, okay? And then we're gonna get into the gay for stay stuff. I want to hear about the gay stories about these men that have wives at home, but they got boyfriends behind closed doors. So I'm gonna let you guys take that away because I'm just sitting here listening and sipping my stuff. But go ahead.
Well, let me just say, when guys go to prison, we used to be a reception center. We're not anymore, but everyone that goes to prison in the state of California goes to a reception center. We will have 2 types of buses, a parolee and a new commitment. Now, parolees, if they had paroled out in our highest level of care, the EOP program, they will go right back in to the highest level of care. And then in 90 days, they're going to be evaluated if they need to stay there. If they paroled out with our triple CMS, then on paroles, they could have been removed from the program. So if a new commitment bus comes, we will screen them with a 32 questionnaire of mental health with stuff like, some of the stuff is, have you ever been in mental health? Have you ever taken psych meds? If they are currently on psych meds, they're probably going to go back in depending on what those psych meds are.
Right.
And then if they score positively, then we will interview them, a 14-page interview, and get a biopsychosocial history and either put them in or take them out. But any time during their sentence, they can be admitted to or excluded from discharge from the mental health program. So they can go back and forth. If they are doing like if there's a reason that you suspect that they need to be evaluated, you put in a staff referral. They can put in a self-referral, or another inmate can put in a referral for them. However, other inmates, to fuck up inmates, will put over and over and over again referrals, because then we have to call the inmate out. We have to interview them. And I've called out my share of inmates that went, I don't even know why you're calling me. Like they will do things like, so-and-so, I'm gonna swallow all my meds that I've hoarded because I'm gonna kill myself. And we pull the inmate out and they're like, I didn't write that. So inmates fuck with other inmates that way. But anytime during their stay, the EOP program is the highest level of care. They're the more severely mentally ill. However, that used to be 80% of them, and 20% were just guys wanting a cushy sentence, because they get out of their cell for 10 to 14 hours a week. Their yard is guaranteed, where mental health takes precedent. So if there's lockdowns everywhere else, they still get a yard. They still get out. So it's an easier sentence, and they mingle with free staff, which is mostly women. So they try to get in there. So it was 80%, 20% hideout. When they started doing the AB 109 in California, which was overcrowding, so they got rid of a lot of people, moved a lot of people around, somehow it became 80% hiding out and 20% mentally ill. And the mentally ill guys didn't want to be there because they were getting victimized by the guys that shouldn't be there. And you get a lot of clinicians that are like, but they're mentally ill. And it's like, no, bitch, they're manipulating you. I mean, I had a guy who, whenever he would see me, he would suddenly go, I'm like, oh. And I'm like, I went to get him out of the program because he was sitting there talking to all his buddies, and I'm right behind him, and he's talking and animated, and they're watching me. And he turns around and he immediately goes, it was like someone pulled out the air out of him, deflated him, and he goes, hi. And I'm like, how are you today? And he's like, I'm not good. I said, okay, go on inside. I'll talk to you in a minute. And his people all around him were cracking up because it was like, dude, she's not stupid. And yeah, I discharged him from the program. But guess what? He played that game at the lower level, and they put him back in the program. So if you get a clinician who's bleeding heart or brand new or whatever, but we will give them, there was a lot of anger management, a lot. So even guys that weren't in the program, in the mental health program, if they had anger management issues, we would give them workbooks and work with, to work on and stuff. But there was a lot of anger management. And then there was the crisis bed, which if they were suicidal, homicidal, or gravely disabled, they go to the crisis bed. If they could not be stabilized, they go to the Department of Mental Health, which is now called prison inpatient. And that could be for 3 months or whatever. And they loved going there because one place had movies, another place had barbecues. So they would do everything in their power to go there.
To get into the program. Yeah.
And if they were sent to the wrong place, then they'd do their time, they'd act stable, get sent back. And the minute the bus dropped them off, they'd put a step down on the grounds and go, I'm going to kill myself. So that it would go all again and they get sent to the right one.
Do you think that the prison, like incarceration structure, actually furthers their, like,
Yes.
I mean, I'm just listening to you talk about this and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
no, they come out and they're like, mommy, feed me, mommy, clothe me,
Yep.
mommy, take care of
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mommy, work for me. Like,
Yeah.
And if they can't find anybody who will, they'll commit a crime and go right back
Right
to
back
home.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There were clinicians there. There were 3 types of clinicians. One type of clinician who's like, everybody's faking, I'm kicking everybody out, and didn't help people at all. It's like, why are you here? They didn't do their paperwork. They wanted to do as little work as possible. And then there were the clinicians that were like, but he's sick. He needs to stay. And it's like, oh my God, he's manipulating the fuck out of you. And then there were clinicians like me who I would sit down in front of an inmate and no lie, they'd come into my office, sit down and go, I hear you kick people out. And I'm like, well, if you are not truly mentally ill and the people are taking the resources, then yes, because wouldn't you, being mentally ill, want the resources? If you don't want the resources, So if you want the resources, you want these people out.
Don't waste my time.
Yeah. But it was like, okay, mental note, guys getting kicked out.
But
And
I really think our prison system is a fucking joke. Like
Yeah.
it
is a
doesn't
joke.
do
It
anything to rehabilitate people. It does. I mean, you can work, you can go to school, you could do whatever you want. Like the United States, basically, you get fed, you get clothed, you get housed, you get pretty much anything you fucking need when you're in prison in the United States. Put these guys in like a prison in like Venezuela or some fucking third world country that's got it way worse, where they don't have, where it's totally inhumane conditions, and they wouldn't fucking last a goddamn second.
You get so many people, and this is just a little bit off topic, and then we'll go back, but you get so many people that are like, oh my God, the poor inmates, our prison system. However, when they were on the news, because they killed,
in my opinion.
yeah, well, when they
not even a
killed 5
punishment.
people and they're on the news, you're like, burn the motherfucker. But now that he's in prison, you're like, but poor inmates, we're treating them so
Their mental health
poorly.
in the hole. Don't put
They
them in the hole.
forget.
They'll go crazy in there. I was like,
Yeah.
they're crazy, and that's why they are in there. And it's like, there's no deterrent. Why? Like, why do you think institutionalization exists? These guys are more comfortable in
They
prison.
have more rights in prison.
Yes.
Did.
Yes.
It's called
Yes.
the Title 22. And
Yes.
it's all of their rights in the state of California. I always called it the Entitled 22 because every year it would come out a new one. And those guys it was like their Bible. They memorized that shit. But every year I was there from 2007 to 2020, it got thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. More and more and more and more rights that they had.
Yes.
And it was like, seriously, and that they quoted that shit like, well, in section 4, whatever, you can't do this. The sad thing is there are guys that really do work the program. They do. I had a lot of guys that were like, I was really proud of, but those were the guys that had life and weren't going to get out. And the ones that didn't work the programs were the ones that were in and out and in and out until they finally did something that kept them in for so long.
Right.
But you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and cry, oh, the poor inhumane conditions, and then burn the motherfucker who just hurt those people. It's the same person.
There's no deterrent. Like, it's supposed to be uncomfortable. Like, because you're not supposed to want to be there.
We had John Legend in concert. We had Common. We had Alicia Keys, and it was
Can
all
you fucking believe that shit? I mean, I'm just like,
And you know what though? They were there like at 6 o'clock, and we had to be out by 5, so staff couldn't even stay and watch them. It was only for the inmates.
What? Wait, this is perfect segue. I'm burning, and I want to ask. Listen, this is the perfect segue. Okay, so, you know, because prison has made it comfortable for these motherfuckers when they should be like, it's not. No. Okay, Doc, and I want to hear Ashley and Heather your stories because
Ashley looks like her brain is spinning, like she's got something she's gonna say. She just looks like she's waiting to get it out. I don't know.
This is the perfect segue for the gay for stay shit, because that's another goddamn reason they keep going back in. They want to lay up with their boyfriends. They don't like women. They just use us to build themselves up. They like dick. So that's another reason they can go back to prison.
Eat a bag of dicks.
They like dick, and they can lay up and be who they are freely with no judgment in prison because they're in an environment where they can be fucking gay and happy and free, you know, and they live in their truth. So that's another reason why they commit crimes to go the fuck back in, you know. So I want to hear the signs, but between Heather, Ashley, because I got some shit for you. Like during sex, there was shit that like I said, oh no, this is not normal what you're fucking doing. Like don't fuck me in the ass. Like, you know, that you're gonna fuck me in my ass. You got to do it gently.
I ain't your Sally. I ain't your
I'm
Sally.
not a man. Don't try to manhandle me like a man during sex. I can feel the difference. I can feel the energy, and it's off. I don't like it. So I want to hear your ladies' stories. Like, what triggered you? Like, when did you start to feel like, you know, he's playing for the other team? Okay. Like he likes men. He's on the down low. Because
Ashley just looks like she's got some. I don't know. I want to hear what Ashley has to say because I don't know. She looks like she's holding on to something good.
I
Doc, I know
actually-
you know stories. I know you've heard of stuff behind, you know, prison of these men laid up with their boyfriends back there. So I'm just gonna let you guys speak. I'm all ears. I'm listening.
This is actually one of the segments that I won't contribute to for my personal safety.
I know. I was just gonna say the same thing. I don't want if he's watching.
He is just like every he leaves me alone about most things, but that is one thing
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Yeah.
Wow.
The thing is, even if it is consensual, it is, according to the prison, still rape. So even if it's consensual. And the interesting thing is they started doing, when I was leaving, they started doing the condoms dispensers. And then
Wait, what? They had
dispensing condoms.
They have condom
The-
dispensers.
Yeah.
Yes.
wow.
And it's funny because it's like, well, there's no such thing as consensual sex in prison, but we're going to give you a condom because we know you're doing it. So at least do it safely.
Woo!
I mean, that makes no sense.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Oh my God.
So
Oh my
if
God.
there are two men in a bunk together, and I can't imagine how quiet they can try to be, but if there's two men and they get caught, and even though it's theoretically consensual, it is always considered a rape.
Which means they would have to build a bond or a close relationship with the CO and getting good with the CO so the CO can turn his back and let them do what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a whole system.
Yes, it's a whole, like, that's the thing that I learned watching my ex go in and out and in and out is there is
Nailed it.
This is good. This is
You
juicy.
can't
I'm
say stuff like that around me. I will catch it.
I didn't think about it. The thing, like, I love the way you pick that up. It's like I serve it to you on a silver platter.
Yeah.
That was the best.
But the thing I learned watching him, now I have to think about how to re-say it. Go into incarceration and then into society was that the system that they have in place is like an entire enterprise.
Yes.
The things that I found out that he was using, like he would tell me on the phone when he would call me, he was obviously using it to intimidate me and cause fear and to like assert his dominance over me. But it blows my mind when I think about what is actually happening inside of our prison system. And then the women on the outside who think that they're holding their men down.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Oh,
literally.
you're enabling him. You're being an
Okay,
enabler.
I'm not gonna say this is not every man in prison. It isn't. There are some that are, it's not every single guy is hooking up. However, the younger ones, I used to say, these women, they are looking for you guys because there's like also an inmate dating. It's an inmate pen pal site. But I said, because they think, well, this guy's not going to cheat on me. However, if he has a celly, he might already be cheating on you. So not every single guy it goes that way. No. However, when you have 4,000 guys in prison, you're going to get a good amount.
I have something burning to ask. I don't want to change the subject until you ladies are finished done speaking on it, but I got so much to say. Oh my God. I have another question. Doc, I understand like with the prisoners, with my ex, when he got out, he was used because he was literally dumb and I was helping him try to get on track with life. So what I understand now that with the pen pal system between the inmates and the outside world, they have email and it's called Core Links. Core Links is a system that helps inmates.
That's in
communicate
federal,
with-
isn't it?
It's federal, yes,
Federal?
Corlin.
Yeah.
So what my ex was doing, because he has a gambling addiction, and I need to ask you about that, because I know a lot of inmates they develop, or their gambling addiction becomes worse while they're in prison. They run these rings, and my ex is a super gambler. When he came out, he said, well, I've got buddies back in the system right now, and I want to connect with them so I can keep this gambling ring going on the outside. So he used me to communicate using the email system, the federal email system, which is Corlinks, to get in touch with his old buddies that are still locked up. So what I want to say is, I don't know if you, Ashley or Heather, have gone through this, but since I've cut my ex off, I've gotten random emails from federal inmates via email. I don't have no friends in prison, but I feel, what hoovering is. When you move on in life, a narcissist will try to hoover you. Either he'll do it himself, or he'll send third parties or people to hoover you to pull you back in the system. I feel like my ex has used his friends in prison to hoover me. He's given them he's given them my email address, because I get random shit like, how the fuck did this motherfucker, he's in prison, I don't know him, how did he get my email? So I want to ask if you guys have, do you know anything about hoovering third party through, using the prison, the inmates? I've heard several stories where inmates will even help a dude stalk his ex, or they'll come together to contact an ex.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard of that, Doc, or you ladies, but it happened to me. It's still happening to me. As in 2023, I got, on Valentine's Day, I got contacted by 2 inmates. I don't know these guys, and they reached out to me, and I said, my ex has got to be behind this shit, because I don't know nobody in prison.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And especially if they have active protection orders against them, right? They'll use people to get around protection orders to try and hoover and communicate with victims.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not unusual at all.
And the inmates help them to keep their hands clean. So if you were to go to the police and say, my ex is stalking me, he sent his friends, the inmates are going to be like, we don't know your ex. They're going to help him cover his dirt. Yeah. That's the shit that I fucking hate. Yo, you send these motherfuckers to contact me, and they're going to help. They're criminal minded, so they're going to help you fucking cover up your tracks if I go to the fucking police.
Yep.
The thing is, though, that everything in prison costs in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So they're not doing this just because they're helping him. There's something that they're getting from him, money on the books or something. Because everything costs in there. Everything has a price on it. When I was, did I freeze? Did I freeze?
Just a little bit. It's okay. Go ahead.
Because I saw both Ashley and Heather kind of jump in their screen, so I think I thought I froze. But this kind of coincides with the sex thing. Is, remember this: sex isn't intimate and sexual. Sex is fucking power.
Yes.
And that's why rape is not about love. It's not about sex. It's about power and control. So in prison, in the hierarchy of prison, they have the shot callers. Those are the big guys at the top. And a few years back, we used to have a SHU, which was a secure housing unit in Corcoran, I think it was, or up in Pelican Bay. And it held all the top gang members, all the really bad guys were in SHU. And that's solitary. And they sued the state of California for cruel and unusual punishment. And they won. And so they had to let everybody out. And suddenly it got really bad in prison. There was a lot of shit, especially
really?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that would happen?
Then was a lot of fighting. It was horrible for a while. But I was talking to one of the correctional counselors. We were in a committee meeting, and he told me this. There is a hierarchy where there's the shot caller. Now, if you fuck up in some way, shape, or form, if you lent money, if you borrowed money, didn't pay back, you got a phone, didn't pay back, or you didn't do something you were supposed to do, You will either have to assault someone, assault staff you like, kill an inmate, whatever. Or the saying was, blood on my knife or shit on my dick. They
Oh,
will sodomize the person.
no.
Like you guys
no.
saw, did you ever see America Me?
Oh, no. Oh,
Okay,
no.
there's a scene in America Me that's really bad, but they will sodomize, and what is that? That is power and control. And I am going to take that element of what is supposed to be good, and I'm going to, just like with rape, just like when men hate women, they will, it's not a love thing. So they will you either have to shank someone, and if you don't, they will sodomize you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my.
So whoever's doing whatever, and it doesn't matter if you parole out, your debt goes with you. If you go to another
Oh my
prison,
God.
your debt goes with you. So the guys that are getting in touch with you for your ex, they're getting something. And if your ex doesn't give it to them somehow, some way, it will get back to your ex.
Oh,
There's nothing that's like, we don't do anything in the goodness of our hearts.
Yeah, my ex used to say, if I make a phone call, I can't undo that phone call.
Yep.
And he would use that shit against me all the time. Don't make me make that phone call, Ashley. Because I can't undo it. I can't undo it. Yeah.
we need to do a part 2 to this shit because I got questions out the ass. I like this.
That's
is mind-blowing.
probably
This is mind blowing to me. It really is. It really is.
That's probably a good idea to do part 2 because
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
other people will have questions too.
After this, they probably will have a lot of questions.
This
Mhm.
is fucking mind blowing because it's just like they have their world inside of there. And I've heard stories, like women have told me like their men were in there reading books, Robert Greene, the 52 laws of whatever. They read books on manipulation, on how to manipulate us as women.
That book is banned in most county jails.
Yeah. And in prisons too.
Yeah.
I think in California it is too.
The thing is this, like living your truth, dude. I don't give a fuck if you want to be with a man, if that's what you like, but it's like, why pull women into your shit? Because it says to me, you cannot survive unless you're using a woman. Like, keep your shit over there, be happy, sleep with men, use them, leave us alone.
Right.
But it's like they can't survive without us, and they got to tear us down, because they don't know how to live in their truth and be happy in their own fucking world. We don't care. Like, I don't give a shit if you want to be gay, dude. Do you that's what you like, but don't pull a woman down or try to step on her to build yourself up. I just don't understand. Like, you destroy women spiritually, financially. You destroy a woman, you break her in half when you like infiltrate her life with the bullshit because you're confused, or you don't like women, but you need to prove a point to a woman. I got so many questions. We got to do a part 2 because like I've heard
I'm
so
just
much
here.
stuff. Go
I'm
ahead.
still like, my hair on my arms is just standing up from that. I can't undo the phone call thing because I know what that means. That just,
Doc,
whoa, man.
Doc,
Yeah,
Doc, I have not been with my ex. I have not touched him. I don't even want to sleep or look at a man. Like, I don't want to be bothered with men. It's been 4 years celibacy for me. And every year, like clockwork, on certain holidays, Valentine's Day especially, I get phone calls from federal prison, federal inmates.
Yeah.
You don't accept them though, do you?
Or they'll text me. I said, how the fuck did you get my number? How the fuck did you get? I don't know nobody in fucking prison, bitch. How did the fuck why are you contacting? I just block. I don't even respond to them. I just block immediately, but I know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like every clockwork, every holiday, you got an inmate contacting me, third party, proxy of, hoovering me. Like, stop. Go live your life with your wife or girlfriend. I'm done. I've been done. But
Well,
I think it's sick that they do that. They'll put their friends in prison. They could be out, but they're still in connection with their friends that are still locked up, and they'll use those friends to stalk and harass. And I've heard stories from other women. They use their friends in prison to stalk and harass their victims. They
Yep.
really do.
my ex I received a phone call from the Mexican prison. I'll never forget that. And I received a phone call from a lawyer in Mexico, and he had told them that I was his wife. I never married that man. And I still receive phone calls from Mexico from people who are either one, they're trying to get in touch with him, or two, I don't know because I don't answer them, but I'll receive phone calls, text messages, social media.
And that's triggering to a victim. How the fuck can
yeah.
you heal? You can't heal when there's constant reminders and motherfuckers like from his people like contacting. You can't heal. It's terrible for a victim. It really is.
Well, I remember like multiple times, like when I just like accepted the fact that, you know, this is, I literally just accepted the fact it's not a matter of if this man kills me, it's when he kills me, because of what would say to me, like, it doesn't matter if I'm in prison or if I'm in a different country, you're not untouchable and I can get to you without even touching you. And like, that's the thing that a lot of women need to understand when you're engaging in a relationship with men like this, is that that's an entirely different world. And that when a man has been to prison, you have to understand he's not afraid of fucking anything.
Right.
What's the worst you can do to me? What's the worst you can do to me?
Already been there.
Your little restraining order, it's a piece. I remember he told me this. Your restraining order, it doesn't mean a damn thing if you're dead, Ashley.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
and if you escape, they become obsessed.
yes.
And I don't care if it's 10 fucking years, 20 years, they're still stalking you after all this time because you were the one that got away and they got to find a way to get back, and they will hurt you for fucking escaping. I feel the same way as you do. Like, I was the one that got away, and I'm like, this motherfucker got a debt to solve with me. He's got it out for me for escaping.
And the shitty thing is that restraining order doesn't stop a bullet. However, the police aren't going to do anything if you don't have a restraining order.
Nope. And sometimes they won't even do anything if you do have a restraining order.
I was gonna say, I was like, I can't even tell you how many times they didn't.
And that's the thing, is like, that's the thing that I've learned. And I'll say this, like the last thing I'll say is, like, you can give someone the benefit of the doubt that they've changed, that they've gotten sober, that they're never going back. But I've been there, I've lived that life, and I can say with full confidence and assurity that if a man comes to me and says, I have a past, I'm a felon, I've been to prison, I've changed, God bless you. Good for you. Stay the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Like, go keep living your best life. But like, it is not worth it to me to find out if you really changed or if you're just telling me a pretty story. Like, get the fuck away from me. Respectfully.
And here's and we should wrap it up because it's getting long, and then we'll have a second part. But in prison, see, I got to see these guys would send, for example, requests for interviews, and they would be the nastiest motherfuckers in this. You know, my fucking cunt clinician is a piece of shit, a fat whale, I hate her, I want to be seen by someone else, stuff like that. And they would say it to people's faces. Well, one time there was a guy that was put on my caseload, and I had seen all these requests that he sent for his old clinician, and they were horrible. They were like that. And she never said anything. I don't know if she was afraid or what, but I'm the type of person that, and I am able to do this in prison because we have officers. They will come if something happens. But the man walks in, and he's this elderly black man. So first off, it's like, dude, come on. You're going to act like this. And you're like, what, 70 years old? I don't know how old he was. He could have been 50, but 50 in prison looks like 70. So he comes and he sits down and he opens his mouth. And I said, no, I'm telling you right now, I have seen the things that you have sent to your old clinician, and you never got written up. If you ever speak to me like that or write anything like that, your ass is getting written up. And he was like,
Good.
oh, God.
Good.
I mean, I'm like, I don't care.
Good.
Nobody put you in your place. That's the problem with a lot of these. And I'm
Yes.
not recommending people do this on the street. I'm not recommending that. Please do not. But in prison, I was able to see and I was able to put them in their place. And so they acted a lot differently. But you also see how they will act when no one puts them in their place and they have a free reign out on the street.
Yes. Yes.
In prison, they will go to the hole. They will get sent time added to their sentence. Out on the street, they'll just get sent back in, but not until they've given you a good ass beating. So I do not try to do that. But that's what I'm saying is I got to see what they did and what they said, and it's a big difference. And they'll sit there and go, but motherfucker, I saw it.
Right.
So don't even go there.
Wow.
So this is an amazing, and I hate to, but we're like at an hour and a half now, and we can go all night. So I think we should probably leave people wanting more.
Yes.
I think I heard that from Ashley before.
No.
Leave them wanting more.
Maybe.
What, Heather?
It's the first rule of show business. Always wanting more.
First rule.
So we will have
my
a
mom
part
taught me.
2. And on that note, as far as a part 2, if there's any questions that you have, if there's any topics that you want to discuss, if there's any issues, like any little stories that you're like, I really don't want to say it myself, but you guys, you can feel free to tell this story, send them to us. You can either leave them in the comment section on YouTube. You can put them in any one of our, hold on, let me reel it back. My train just kind of started driving all over the place. So sorry. You can either, like, in our comments or whatever, you can put, hey, I have a story or whatever, or you can email us at WCWYCW1. It's just the first letters of why complain when you can whine, the number 1 at gmail.com. We also have a TikTok of WCWYCW. Ashley, do you want to?
If you are a domestic violence survivor, experienced toxic relationships, and you'd like support, go to lovingsingle.co and sign up for I had a frog in my throat. Society. The Hot Mess Society is a women's only support community where we have Q&As with Dr. Jody, support groups, ladies nights and happy hours, Saturday coffee support groups and chats. It's a great place to get together and have these types of conversations in person and live with other members.
And you can also find the podcast on, I already said it before. If you didn't hear it, go back and rewatch and find it again. And lovingsingle.co/podcast. We will do another part of this. Absolutely. Positively. There can be a whole podcast series.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
Heather, where's Heather?
I'm here.
Okay.
So subscribe, like, and hit that little bell that will tell you every time we drop an episode. And this one will, I was gonna say this one will be dropped. Duh, you guys already know because you're watching it. So that doesn't matter. Like I said, entertainment.
And I just want to say thank you all so much for having me. I will do my best to promote you guys, your platform. Thank you, Doc, because they're trying so hard to ban and shut my page down on TikTok for putting this information out there. And that's, you guys, you all have dealt with flying monkeys, and that's what flying monkeys do. They want to stop the truth from getting out. So I really appreciate, you know, your clinical experience, and you know, they can't even attack and say, you don't have no credentials. Well, I said, well, bitch, I got a psychologist on here. Now what the fuck you
People
wanna say?
right here with credentials, Heather. Me.
Then they get mad and say, well, you know, how long has she been practicing? She doesn't then know what she's talking about. They keep moving the goalposts. So at the end of the day, fuck the haters. I super appreciate all three of you ladies. I will promote you guys. Let's do a part 2. I got a list of fucking topics we could go in. We got the fake life coaches, the fake fucking relationship gurus.
Oh God.
Yo,
Let's do it.
forever, but
Fake life coaches.
yes,
After you, Devity.
guys so much for having me on here, and I just want women to start smartening up and raising their discernment. And it's okay to be loving, but be loving towards the right people that will love you right back. Don't get manipulated. You know what I mean?
It all starts with self-love. If you don't know your own value and your own worth, you're going to accept far less than you deserve.
There you go, Doc. She said it in a nutshell. So thank you for having me, and I will come back as many times you guys have me. And I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. Cheers.
Cheers.
I know my glass
Cheers.
is
My
empty.
cup is empty. I've been sipping. It's empty now. So listen.
Almost. I saved a little bit.
Okay. Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.